All right. Hello, everyone. This is Eric Greenstein with SoFlo Real Estate Investors. I am here right now with a gentleman, Mike, from Apaka Outpost. Um, we have him on today because we have a very interesting and topic that we've always wanted to chat about. And the topic of today is hell yeah, container houses. That's right, container houses. So I want to go ahead and start off, and I'm going to introduce myself and what we do here, and then Mike and everyone else will do a brief intro as well. Again, my name is Eric Greenstein. Um, we have a website as well. You can always find our recordings as we record all of these webinars, our roundtables, so everyone else can view them. Everyone else can obviously see and catch up. And if they're ever interested in container houses, they know where to go, or refinancing, or any of the subjects that we talked about before. So again, thank you guys for showing up, and thank you for watching the video. Mike.
Yeah, so you just want me to give you an introduction on how I started and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that. So,
absolutely. If you can actually go into your experiences, I believe you actually just told us that you were in real estate investing, and I believe it was flipping. If you can just go over briefly like your background and how you got into flipping, and then obviously how that kind of converted into you building amazing container homes.
yeah, so probably like 3 or 4 years ago, probably 4 years ago, I ran another company where I had quite a few employees, and the company grew way too fast and way too quick, and I just wasn't doing very well managing it. That I actually unfortunately had to bankrupt the company, but then I ended up having a friend of mine who was a real estate investor, and he came to me and said, "Mike, you're really good at what you do at your craftsmanship and your building." And he said, "You need to get into flipping real estate." And I told him, "Well, I don't think I'm going to touch a hammer again after my last company." Um, he kept reminding me every month that I should go back and flip homes with him. And so a couple months later, I decided, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so I have I hope I don't go too long on this explanation, but it's a really cool story. I, uh, I basically lost absolutely everything from that last company. We had everything that we went to nothing. I only had like $100 in my account, and I was in my parents' basement. And my friend Craig came to me and said, "You really need to flip real estate." And so I really was at a point of desperation. I needed to find work. And this is a great testament to contractors. If you're hurting for work, this is what I did to get a lot of work very quickly. I don't know if you guys ever heard of a software called Slide Broadcast, but I can leave a voicemail on your phone without it ringing with the Slide Broadcast. And I basically scraped as many phone numbers as I could of every realtor I could find around the Salt Lake area of Utah. And I accumulated about 5,000 phone numbers of realtors. And I borrowed $400 from my dad, or no, it was like $200 from my dad to get the Slide Broadcast out. And I was able to dial all those phone numbers. And I just said in my voicemail, "I'm just a handyman getting started. I would like to go flip some homes with you guys. What investors do you know that would need help flipping real estate?" Because as a handyman, what's hard about being a handyman is you gotta pick little tiny jobs like to fix a toilet and stuff like that. And even you have to go out and bid on the project, and it wastes so much time. Where I feel most time is valuable for a handyman or contractor is to do a flip job, but to find units that are not occupied and only focus on those. Because I wanted to raise a certain amount of money within 30 days. There's a reason why, but I won't go into that. But I needed to raise about $15,000. I need to do in about 40 days to help my family get out of our financial rut. And the way I did it is that I contacted those realtors, and I only focused on properties that were not occupied. And within about, I think within 12 to 15 hours, I accumulated about $14,000 of work from investors and realtors. And all I did is I told them I just need to find work and on properties that need to be rehabbed or anything like that. But I mainly want to work with investors. And because Craig told me that's the market I need to hit.
Mhm.
And I did a flip for him. And how I usually flipped up one house a month or within every 3 weeks by myself, a full rehab. And the way I do that is a guy that I just had the bare minimum tools. I didn't even have a truck. I had my mom's Astro van. And what I did to make it most efficient flip that I could possibly do by myself is that the first thing is I rent a U-Haul, or first I do all my demolition the first day. Everything is demolished all at once. You don't take any shortcuts. You just do it, everything. You got to scrape out all your studs. If you have to, you need to make sure all the nails are out.
Mhm.
Everything is completely prepped before you do any new construction. And then what I did is I pile it all in the garage in one big fat pile and make sure everything is crystal clean, ready to build, where I don't have to go back and demolish anything. So that's the first step you got to do in your flip. You just don't just do little by little. You do everything at once on your demolition. The next thing I did is the best 60 bucks I ever spend is rent a U-Haul van. And I rent this U-Haul van, and what I do is I get all the garbage and I put in this U-Haul van and I take it to the dump that day, and all my garbage is gone. Dumpster fees are like 200 bucks. Why would you
Yeah.
for the same size vehicle? And I just saved myself 150 bucks for that amount of work. But the thing is, what is your time? What is the value of your time compared to what you're doing? After I did that, then I go to Home Depot the exact same day. I have an Excel sheet of all the material that I generally get for flipping homes or just doing my properties I worked on. And I take that Excel sheet and I give it to Tracy at Home Depot, and I'm able to get all my material at once for that flip. And there might be some things I got to go back to the store for, maybe because plumbing is pretty common. You got to always go back for maybe something else to modify something.
Mhm.
But I have everything, my paint, my trim, my laminate, everything I have ordered at once. And I put it all in that U-Haul van because the goal is to never go back to the store again until the job is done, unless you got to do something very small. Because that's the biggest thing that wastes contractors' time is going with their employees to the store to get one item or something just to work on a property to flip. So I get all my material at once in the U-Haul van, and I either put it in the garage and I put it in the living room. I cover up the windows so nobody looks in it, so they don't know all that material's in there. And I basically work from 5 a.m. till about 5 p.m. on every flip, doing that by following that same process over and over, by just getting all the pretty much all the material installed and then move on to the next flip. Just those simple little processes there with U-Haul van and the demolition and getting all your material at once is a big factor. There's a big investor I used to do a lot of flips for. His name was Bill. He's a freaking genius when it comes to flipping properties, because there's 3 different investors I worked with. During that time when I first started, I flipped over 30 to 32 homes is what I've done. Within about a year and a half is what I did. And mainly a lot of it was apartments too. But there's 3 type of investors out there, and I hope I don't offend anybody about this. But one investor is the guy who actually wants to put all the nice stuff in the house, like granite countertops, super nice, elaborate, really nice laminate flooring that's like $3 a square foot. And then they spend forever deciding what they want to do next, or get all these beautiful custom cabinets. And what I learned about flipping is that it's just not about the fancy stuff you put in that raises the cost. It's just the amount of bedrooms and bath, and just making it nice basically sells it more quickly, I guess, in a way is what it does. But it doesn't really raise the price, I believe, of the property as much. And because the one investor I worked for was Nate, he's put tons of money into putting fancy stuff in his homes, but then he's always making it or breaking it on every flip. He's like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to make any money on this. But then there's the middle, the average Joe, where they're maybe a school teacher or maybe an attorney that just wants to flip homes on the side, and they take forever on some of their flips because they're always trying to make decisions on what to do because it's their baby and they want to be very careful on how to flip. But the thing is, it takes them so long that they're wasting money on interest on loans
Mm-hmm.
to take care of these properties. The most genius investor I've ever done flips for, I did over 18 to 20 flips for Bill. He had an old saying. He says, I pay for speed, is what he says. And the thing is that he loved hiring me because I was quick at doing stuff. And it was just me. It was nobody else. It was just me flipping the properties. And he uses the same laminate, the same cabinets, the same paint. Everything is cookie cutter on every property, which made my life 10 times easier because all I had to do is I bid on my labor, and then I just go to Home Depot and I get all the material at once because I already knew what he wanted. And then we just flip properties like crazy for him. And what he does, actually, he rents a lot of properties. So what he does is he basically buys an apartment complex or buys a house. He jacks up the rent where it forces them wanting to move out, which is sad to say, but that's what he does.
Yeah.
And when he jacks up the rent, now the whole apartment complex is empty. I come in and I flip everything. And now he raised the value of the apartment complex or the house exponentially because it has higher rent, it looks good, and basically has new tenants in there, all under contract for the next 2 or 3 years. And because of that, he makes tons of money on refinancing with banks, showing that progress. And that's what I did for the past couple of years, is flipping for these guys. But I was able to do it very quickly because of that progress. Reason why I don't flip homes myself is there's a lot of gamble into your money. Where the thing I don't like about real estate, I'm sorry to burst everyone's bubble, but is the value at the end of the flip. Because every time I flip a property for an investor, they have no idea how much it's going to cost until it's assessed at the very end. And once it's assessed at the very end, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but once it's assessed at the very end, then they'll have somewhat of a rough idea how much it's going to cost and how much profit they're going to make. And because Nate, he puts all this fancy stuff in it, and then he goes, oh my goodness, I thought it was assessed for $30,000 more than what I was going to do, but it was actually $5,000 less or something, or $10,000 less.
Well, it's all about the deals, right? It's all about getting a deal up front. I mean, a smart investor, or I'm sorry, not smart, but a seasoned investor would check the numbers before, run the numbers, and like even they would also jack up the price as well of costs. So you have a window and you have some areas and gray areas there. So I mean, no, like you're like you do make a great point, but it's all about deals for sure.
Yep. And then, but the two major factors that if I was investing in real estate, is you have to look out for your timing to flip.
Sure.
Because some guys spend up to 6 months on flips and they're wasting all that money on interest. And now a lot of people lost a ton of money doing that. And then two, they're losing a ton of money on how they're building the product. Because Bill does great because all he does is cookie cutter product. And he's actually buying it in bulk to get massive discounts from Home Depot. And doing that, he was able to make a huge win-win on his properties because his goal is to have a 60-day turnaround on every property.
So I was going to ask you the goal. I was going to ask you what the turnaround.
Yeah.
What's the average that you've done?
For my turnaround?
Yeah.
Well, my flips, they take me about 3 weeks to 4 weeks to flip. That's what it takes. And then, but what got me into the container homes is that I also used to build a lot of cabins. I built about over 24 cabins. Oh. And probably two major questions the owners of cabins always ask me is, how can I make this more secure and how can I make it more off-grid? And I tell them, well, you just got to put battery backup system in, because the secret to being off-grid is not just the solar panels, it's the batteries. You need more batteries to have, more of a backup to stay off-grid.
Mm-hmm.
But reason why I thought about containers over flipping properties, because Craig actually was telling me you need to get some funding together for investors and just flip properties. But I just got tired of traveling, and I'm a big family guy. I want to be around my family. That I wanted to be in a warehouse where I basically set my own hours and I'm home every day at the same time. When I flip properties, I always got stuck in traffic, and I sometimes get home 2 hours late or something. I don't get to put my girls to bed. So that's why I'm big time into flipping or working on the container homes. I got a really cool ending to all this when it comes together at the end of my spiel on this, why I'm doing land deals and container homes, because
Okay.
it goes around me being a family guy and finding time to be with my family. So anyway, but with cargo containers, I have used to be, I'm familiar with the tiny homes where they build them on wheels, or mobile
Sure.
homes where they're on wheels.
Yeah.
Problem about having something on wheels or with a VIN number is that if you have a VIN number on something, it depreciates in value. But when you have a cargo container home, that is able to be set on a foundation with hurricane straps or whatever is approved by the city and the engineer to get it. But cargo containers can be set on a foundation, and they hold value to the property. And they can increase in value as well, just like any other property, as long as the city's okay with it. And that's the beauty about containers, because I want to help people get something built that is going to retain its value and not lose its value. And that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to build it. Number two, I just think it's cool building in cargo containers, and because I've done so many recreational property cabins that I built, that I find that there's not really any cargo container manufacturer out there that focuses on strictly off-grid capabilities. I would like to challenge you guys to find me one that actually focuses on that. Most of them, they just say you need to hire a solar company or somebody on the other side to take care of that for you. But what I have is that the moment it's placed somewhere, you can immediately start living in it immediately, because it's all set to go. You may have to refill the water tank because we could transport it with a full water tank, but that's a lot more weight. But the thing is, what I decided, hopefully I'm not jumping all over things, but this is a really good explanation involving real estate and the containers. I started building some containers for some folks where they get it on the property, but the issue is the second it gets on the property, they don't know how to set up their property to with the city, and also to get it established for them to either refinance or anything else like that. And I've learned a lot from the past couple months actually on this issue. The first issue is when you want to put a cargo container on a property, if it's in a residential neighborhood, most cities, or actually almost all cities, if it's in a residential area, you got to meet the minimal 1,200 to 1,500 square feet to put a cargo container. If you put it less than that, then you got to be on a recreational lot. On a recreational lot, that allows you to be any square footage you want. And
And
so,
recreational, there's no zoning or any issues like that, right?
yeah, but there's a challenge with recreational lots that I found too, and I'm going to explain that to help you guys out. But with residential lots, I actually put some plans together where we propose to, because I don't know if you guys are familiar with Park City, Utah. It's a very, very expensive high-end ski town. And they're selling lots out there for $50,000 a lot. And what's crazy is that they're building these elaborate 1,500 square foot homes, and they go from $50,000 in a lot that is valued, and you build a 1,500 square foot home on there. Now the lot is valued at $500,000 to $600,000 minimum. Some houses are actually selling for $800,000 to $900,000 in those neighborhoods. It's insane. So we were thinking about, I had some investors together where we were actually thinking about doing it, but I just did not want to gamble $300,000 in cost to put in a foundation and build the home and see how it sells. Because I'm so used to building small stuff. I always build stuff less than 500 square feet. So I passed on that offer. I might do it in the future, but I'm just not going to do it today. But it was a really neat idea. But that's how we got away with it. The city pre-approved us
Hmm.
to put 3 cargo container homes together where I didn't stack them. I don't stack them for liability reasons. And
Okay.
all I did is we would basically pour a basement, and we put a basement in with the cargo containers on top of the basement, where we made it well over 1,500 square feet, and that's how we planned it out. So that's how we got approval. Cities will allow it as long as it's over 1,500 square feet. But the issue also is you need to make sure that the neighborhood approves of it because it's a cargo container. And what's cool about Park City, people are building these custom homes that all of them look modern and look special and different, that the containers would blend into that. But if you're in a typical mom and pop residential neighborhood, it's going to be, you got you got to go through like committee approvals and other stuff like that with the city. If it has to blend with the neighborhood is what it has to do.
Mhm.
Um, and
What,
then
what if it's I'm sorry, real quick question.
go ahead.
Um, what if it's like in like the backyard of like say if you have like a quarter acre property and the backyard you have plenty of room, you can just throw a container in the back and have it as like a extra unit that you can rent out.
Yeah.
Would you think there would be an issue? Again, I mean, I know you haven't done work in Florida, but would you think there would be an issue with that?
Oh no, I
Like
done tons of research on this already,
okay,
and we're already working with investors where we are going to be putting these on the backyard of homes, and the city needs to be able to allow an ADU dwelling in the backyard as what is called an accessory dwelling unit is what's required. And if the city, just ask the city, do you accept like an accessory dwelling unit in the backyard or ADU dwelling? The state of California and the state of Oregon just recently passed that law where every resident in those 2 states allow ADU dwellings in backyards of homes. All you do is pull the permit, and you got to meet 3 to 5 foot setback, and you can place one in the backyard.
okay,
And so as long as the city allows ADU dwellings, then you're free game. You can actually put it in the backyard. And you just got to meet the setbacks and whatever the minimal square footage is. If you, sometimes if you have a half acre to an acre, some cities allow over 200 square feet that you could be put in the back. But most cities I've found they want less than 200 square feet. That's why I recommend the 20-foot units to be put in the backyard, or you can easily place those back there. Like really cool project that we're going to do for a guy this summer. He owns a beach house, or it's not really a beach house. It's a block and a half from the beach in Oceanside.
okay.
It's a $1.5 million 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. It's
I
insane.
wish my property was worth that because I have a 2-1 as well on the water.
Yeah, but this is in Oceanside.
I know, I know,
And
I know.
he's able to
Crazy.
meet the minimal setback requirements for that house, and he's going to put a 20-foot container home in the backyard of that this summer. And we're going to have to use a crane to lift it over the house and put it back there.
Wow.
But he found that as long as he puts, it's an ADU dwelling, it's going to add value to his home, that he believes is going to add $200,000 in value to his property, putting just that additional unit to his backyard. It's
Wow.
insane. So,
Wow.
so yeah, it really
That's
depends on the area that you're at.
incredible.
Even Florida, there's some high-end areas there.
Mhm.
A lot of money in certain areas in Florida where
Sure.
these beach houses, maybe they can put one there, but it really depends on the neighborhood.
My only concern is obviously you've seen these containers when they're in their normal state. They're on ships. They're getting hit with salt water all the time, and they tend to rust. Do you think that would actually have a play if there were container houses here, mainly closer to the beach?
I don't know. Well, mine don't have a lot of rust when I get them. I try and tell my guys that I get it from to get them in decent shape. But what I do is I pressure wash them,
Uh-huh.
and then we prime it and we paint over it so it's got a better sealant over it, so it's not going to rust.
Got it.
So we've done that to our containers, and also probably half of our containers, if you notice on my website,
Mhm.
don't even have metal on the outside or except the roof.
Oh,
it's basically we put new finished siding all around it is what we do. So not a lot of the containers exposed, just mainly the top or the bottom. Mainly, actually, most of the top is covered too because of the solar. So, but I don't really worry about rust because we already pre-paint everything and prime it, and it's got a special sealant over it.
Right.
So
Very, very, very cool. When we were chatting, you actually told me that you just installed you actually installed a container very recently, and I'm actually gonna share the picture real quick. Everyone see that? No. Um,
yeah, I see
oh, you do? Could you go over this? I thought that, like when you sent this to me, I thought this was the coolest picture because it just shows that you can live out in the middle of nowhere and be happy and be whoever you want to be. Could you just go over the installation, not the installation process, but can you just go over this project with us just for a few minutes?
Yeah, actually, I was going to go into that next subject actually after Park City.
Oh,
This was a big experience I've done with that property where I know this is insane on these prices for these properties, but they are in the middle of nowhere because I build these for preppers,
mm-hmm.
and I want these to be placed in areas where not a soul's going to be around you because it's like The Walking Dead. You know, if someone's going to come up to you and find that you have a resource, they're going to come after you.
Sure.
But it's nice if they're in a remote location where if something goes south in the economy or something, then you can go out in the middle of nowhere. So this property is about a couple hours away from Salt Lake. And I recommend customers to put these about 60 miles away from your city. And just for the sake of just being away from the civilization, but also I know this is silly, but we include these 72-hour kits with MRE meals that come in it to last you 3 days of walking. Because the average person who walks about 20 miles a day is what we figured.
Mhm.
And if your outpost is 60 miles away, you can get there in 3 days with a 72-hour pack if you don't have the gas to get there with your vehicle. And so that's why this unit is about that distance away from the Salt Lake area for this for that reason. And then what we do is when we first got this property, the property is it's basically there's no physical address on the property, and all they gave me was a GPS coordinates to the property, and they also gave you the section of the development and section ID, but no physical address. And
So, Mike, I have a question. So, in particular to this particular job site here, so this land was privately owned by somebody, or is this like how? Because this.
it's developed in a way where they made a subdivision out of it, and they're selling lots. Every lot is
Oh,
about 10 acres per lot, is what it is.
okay.
And
Because it
they're
was pretty
selling
little to me. So.
each lot is sold for about $5,000 for every 10-acre lot. That's what we got it for.
Oh man.
And
Sign
then
me up.
and so anyway, so basically we got the lot, but then we found that we can't, because I we would like to refinance on the prop or get a loan against the property so we can actually use the money to go and do another land deal. But lenders, they do not lend on the property unless it is a physical address. That's something you need to keep in mind, is that you could get a nice recreational lot and they'll give you a GPS coordinates and a lot number and everything, but it doesn't matter squat to a bank unless it has a physical address.
Wow.
So we worked with the county, and as long as you can grade a road. And actually, Eric, I'll send you a text time of another road that we excavated
Yeah.
to get to a property. I rented a skid steer, and actually, it was awesome. Best $400 ever spent. I rented it for $400 for a day, or for 2 days, and we excavated a 10-foot wide dirt road plowing through sagebrush to go a half a mile to the property. So it was a half a mile distance to get there. But we got permission from the owners of the other properties that were in the way, because this property was in the middle of a bunch of other properties. So we got permission, and we basically had the road go along the property lines of the two lots to get there. And now the city is approving that, because they said in the city they won't allow a physical address if there's nothing on it, on the property. That's another thing to keep in mind. They only allow a physical address if there's something already built or already approved to be built. And it just depends on the county. And so we planted the unit on there as fast as we could, just so we could tell them, look, there's something on the property. Let's get a physical address. So now we're getting our address physically there, because now we have a road. We got the neighbors to approve of the road, and we have a unit on the property. Wow. So now we got approval to get a physical address. I know this sounds like a lot of hassle, but I just saved myself probably $5,000 to not hire an excavation company to go do it. I just did it myself. And and then we just basically quickly just put the property on there, the unit on there, just so we can get approval from the county just to get that physical address. Now we're getting the physical address by next week, and then we can send it to our lender to get the financing to invest in the next property. Wow. And are you guys there?
Yeah, now.
Hold on, my truck, I had to turn it off because it's been on, my battery was on too long. So I hate these smart trucks. So
they're too smart.
Hold on a second, I need to put on speaker. Are you guys there?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, let me turn up the volume. Give me a second.
So then basically, from what I'm understanding,
I was hearing you through the speaker on my truck, and now I gotta get you back on my speaker. Give me a second.
No problem.
Okay, you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think I had this on too long in my truck. So yeah, what we're doing now is the steps are, you can find any property for, like, because the lender I talked to, he says, you know, it doesn't matter how much the property is, just as long as it's got that physical address and you got something on there. Mm-hmm. And so what we did is, step one, we basically, my budget is to only find a property for less than $10,000 and out on a remote area. And then the next step is we got to get a road access to there if we have to. And then the final thing is we just got to get that physical address if there's not one from the city. But that's why, and so the next property we're looking at getting, I found one for $13,000 for 30 acres. And that's about the same distance to Salt Lake. Okay. And we're going to put another unit on that property. And what we're looking to sell it for is about $150,000 is what we're trying to do. So I don't know if it's a huge profit margin, but those units sell for about $90,000. Just to get the property set up with, I want to put, either we're going to put a well on it or we're going to put a 2,000-gallon water tank on there, and with a water catchment system on the roof. By doing that, we're able to spend maybe $5,000 extra just to set up the property. So I'm out by probably $110,000 to set everything up completely, and then we'll sell it for about $150,000 is what we do. And and then this isn't the big gamble, is not knowing the exact value until everything is done, because the hard thing about cargo containers is that every realtor I've talked to, even the realtor here in Utah, they said, we never worked with cargo containers. This is a very new industry that they're really not sure exactly how much it's going to be worth. But the big thing that my realtor told me, which is really cool explanation, he says, but what people are paying for from what I'm doing is basically the value of what it's going to be for their family. Because this is something interesting, is that I don't know if you guys have sold a property more than what it's worth. Have you guys ever done that? If someone bought it higher than what it is valued for? But he says people actually do that. And if you price it higher than what it's valued for, but the thing is they have to pay the difference with the bank.
Yeah.
That's
is what
Yeah,
they
you
have
get
to
the
do.
appraisal. Yeah, they got the appraisal.
Because we put a lot of money into the customizations on the cargo containers, but what I sell on these lots is I don't just sell the container with the solar, but we actually add a full year or two supply of food storage. We have the water tanks, the water catchment system. We basically completely set it up for the ultimate apocalyptic situation is what we do.
wow.
And because of that, all the stuff that's put into it, how much is that worth to your family to protect your family, compared to just buying it for an investment reason? Their investment is the value of the items that we put on that property,
Hmm.
because the realtor. That's why I can't promise you guys exactly how much these are worth yet, because we just started it. But the realtor is saying he's guessing that we could try and it can be assessed for about $100,000 or $120,000. But my goal is to sell it for $150,000 because of the amount of stuff that we're putting on there. Because we're not really selling a square footage, we're selling the stuff that
The
is with the square
lifestyle.
footage,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
Mike,
yeah.
lifestyle.
I have a question, Mike. So, in regards to the people that will be purchasing these properties, which to me, you have an awesome um, thing going on here because this is something that has never been seen before, and that's the beauty of this country and being able to reinvent yourself and do new things. It's amazing. But my question is, the people that will be buying these locations, are they going to be getting? Are you thinking they're going to be getting bank financing, or is this something you're looking at
This is the
people that?
this is the last thing going over with you guys. Actually, I was going to go ahead of you on that. So I
Okay.
have a customer right now. His name, I have Greg out of southern Utah. He actually has a property north of a town called Manti, and he basically actually no, he hasn't purchased a property yet. He is working on closing on it. But the issue is he was having issues with the city to get something like this approved. But the biggest thing is the city mainly needs to know that these are built to code and that they can be built properly for these people. And what I do is I go through a company out of Florida called NOAH, NOAH, and they actually inspect my homes while they're getting built. And I put a sticker on it, certifying that they're built to code. And then we show that to the city. But then we basically have to show the blueprints to the unit and the certification from NOAA to get that approved by the city to get that put on there. And then when it comes to the property as well, with them getting it pre-approved, what I've done is I actually helped that customer. We're working on basically setting up the entire lot for them, where we're going to go through the same process like what I've done in Nevada, where we're going to be able, we're working with the city first to get pre-approval of the blueprints and the certification showing that it's built to code. And then we will then work on getting and the other big roadblock you'll be facing is the foundation.
Mhm.
There's 3 different foundations cities want. They want either a cement slab for these things, they want stem walls, or the last thing that you guys would consider is a basement. I don't know if there's much basements in Florida,
No, no, not at
but
all.
No.
okay. Well, the thing about having a basement is it doubles the square footage.
Huh.
Because in a realtor's world, that's what you want. Remember the Park City job I told you?
Mm-hmm.
The only way we were able to go over 1,500 square feet is a basement.
And you put it
And
together.
doing it that way, and it doesn't have to be finished either. It just has to be show that we have that much square footage. So we actually have a set of plans where we show a stairway going from the outside and into the basement, and there has to be at least one window and one door to access it to consider it as a finished, consider it as a basement for the square footage.
Mm.
So, so what we've done is, in order to get the value of those properties, like even in any place that we want to put it, like for this guy in southern Utah, is that we've found that it has to be pre-approved by that city. And then we basically is also determined by the foundation that we put in to really guarantee that we're going to get value on that container. So just the beginning stages is just a pre-approval and that foundation. Because once you get a pre-approval from the city and you get the proper foundation in, the easy part is just planting the container right on the property and you're done. And so, and then it comes to, yeah, the square footage with the city, as long as they're okay with it. Actually, I think I blabbered on too much, but I think that answered your question.
Not at all.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
But
but
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
one last thing anyway is to go over Airbnbs anyway, is because I have worked with probably at least a dozen folks who does Airbnbs, and the thing about these things, which is pretty cool about it, is that I recommend to make it look as much cargo container look as possible,
Trendy.
mainly on the outside, because what's interesting about Airbnbs I learned from investors is that people that want Airbnbs, they want to stay in something that is unique. If they don't want something unique, they just go to a hotel anyway.
mm,
And that's kind of why they like it. And also I hear Airbnbs could be affordable, but it's a place where it's your own little oasis away from the hotel and the hustle and bustle. And that's why people really like them. So when I talk to investors that want to do Airbnbs, they want it to look unique and special to them, where it's giving a memorable experience. And that's why it's important that when you design something, even if it doesn't have to be a cargo container, for designing something in your backyard and it's going to be an Airbnb, just make it look special, something that is unique. Because Nate, that I did those flips for those high-end homes that we did those flips for, that's what he has a few Airbnbs, and it's the exact same concept. He says, I want it to look special to somebody because it's going to make them remember that experience, and they're going to want to come back. Because there's one other investor I do know, I haven't done any work with him, but this comes to, I was going to explain how I network with people on Facebook, because this is a great valuable thing I can share with you guys on how I network with so many people. Is this guy, he owns, I think, only like 8 to 10 Airbnbs, and that's all he owns. And he makes a buttload of money every month on these units. He rents them for about, I think it's $300 or $400 a night for each of these Airbnbs.
Wow.
Because what he does, they're very small, but he puts them in very unique locations, like along the beach and other places. So he spends a lot of money on these Airbnbs, but they're small, simple units, just to make it as a simple getaway place. Because he says there's a lot of people who commute and go on airplanes and they just want to get away. And what he's done is he actually doesn't just put it on an Airbnb website. He networks with high-end buyers that want to rent out these units, and he makes them as retained customers, where he finds people that regularly commutes to certain locations, and he offers this Airbnb to them. And so so I don't know exactly the whole formula on how he's done it, but he makes I believe it was over $20,000 a month he makes all throughout the year on these Airbnbs, because all he does is he network with the right people that regularly that commute to these cities to work for these corporate companies, and he helps them stay in these very nice oasis kind of locations without staying in a hotel.
Oh.
And because of that, he has a huge network of these people that he keeps them in his email database and just reminds them, hey, we have this unit open, and his Airbnbs are always booked, because he makes it as a very unique stay. And he doesn't just have it where it's open for them to stay in, but he makes a very special experience. He says he includes like stupid little things in his Airbnbs, like chocolates and other things like that, just to make it as a nice experience for them. And he says it's the stupid little things is what makes him want to come back. And so
I totally agree with him, because I used to with mine, I used to Airbnb it. Now, not anymore, but what I used to do is I used to ask what their favorite, what they like to drink, wine or beer, whatever, and I'll have Shipt, SHIPT company go ahead and deliver it to the door. It's just like really nice, genuine, different type of strategy that you can do and actually add value to your Airbnb. So I 100% agree with you there. Yeah.
So that is just that's what I would do if I had a good amount of money to invest, is put it in the locations like that and follow the same thing that this guy has been doing for Airbnbs, because rentals are great for nice, consistent flow, because people are under contract to stay in that rental. But when it comes to Airbnb, I'd rather just network with the right people to make that happen is what I would do. But this guy just, it sounds like he knows people. He almost sounds like the mafia when I talk to him. So there's somehow he was able to make that happen, but he's a really cool guy. Hope I don't get ahead of myself, but this is the last thing I think it will be great to share with you guys is how to get a really good network on Facebook. Reason why I know how to do a lot of my marketing is I ran an SEO marketing firm about 6 or 7 years ago. I used to help small businesses get ranked on Google, but I got out of that business because people just don't know how to be patient with Google AdWords or Google PPC just to rank on Google, because it takes 6 to 8 months to really rank a website on Google. And it doesn't just happen overnight. And people are always disappointed thinking, oh, it's been 4 months, I don't see anything, but you have to wait. And the funny thing is when I closed doors of that company, people were really disappointed when I left because they realized their website was actually starting to get ranked really well. And but what really ranks a website really well is Facebook and YouTube. And I did a lot of Facebook networking on Facebook groups. I am a member of about over 350 Facebook groups right now involving realtors and investors, and also with preppers and a few other markets. But so I'm a member of a ton of Facebook groups. And what I do is I share my stuff on there, because would you rather spend, I guess, a few $100 a day to target a couple million people on Facebook with your ads, or would you like to try and target the same number of people on Facebook groups by posting on a bunch of these on all these groups? And you got to find the groups that are interactive. So what I've done is that I've went to all these Facebook wholesaler, investor, or just realtor groups. And what I did for fun is that I looked through every group conversation. I know this is kind of deep, but what I did is I go through these conversations and I look at which group has the most comments and the most interactions on each group. And I charted it on my Excel sheet to rank what are the most interactive groups to focus on, from high to medium to low. And doing that, every time I finish a cargo container home now, I focus on the highs and I go to the medium. And if I really have time on my hands, I'll go to the lows. And doing that, that's how I get a great influx of traffic to my website and people to share my content, because I focus on not just random groups on Facebook, but you got to focus on the most interactive groups of realtors and other people, because those are the ones who are going to share your content. And that's basically what I did. And so, but just don't spam it too much, because actually last night I kind of did it on accident, because we're looking for funding for our next project and we were looking for another investor. And I posted on about 30 groups, I think it was yesterday, and someone kind of harassed me going, hey, you kind of posted on a little too many groups this time. And I was like, I know, that's my bad. But the best thing to do is only post. You got to post maybe every 10 minutes just to make people not, get upset at you for posting too much. But doing that throughout the day, just copy and paste maybe a post or like a blog article. The biggest thing too is to educate people on these groups. Don't just make a sales pitch, but say, hey, really cool idea on how to do this. Like one of my next posts, what I'm going to be doing is I am going to educate people on these groups on how I'm going to set up that property in Montello, Nevada. And we're basically trying to wrap it up, and then we're going to educate people more on how it's been done, but also what value we were able to market it at. And then we're going to follow up and just say, hey, we just sold it for this much, and this is how much we made. And basically I'm going to be doing that. Now, the reason why I got into these Facebook groups is I almost want to get back into it, but I love construction too much. I really do love construction, and I'm just not a sit at the desk paper pusher person. And so, but I know, are any of you guys into wholesaling or stuff like that?
No, we actually had a few members who couldn't make it today, but no, I mean, none of us here do wholesaling, but we're
Okay,
familiar.
because I worked with Nate and Bill, because they actually send out all those letters and they do all this wholesaling stuff to find deals. but it's such a hard industry, they say, to find those deals.
Well,
It's really
yeah. First of all, it's extremely crowded. Like that whole sector.
I think there's too much hype into it is what it was.
Yeah.
So, because what happened was, I worked with Bill and I worked with Nate because I asked them, where do you get all your deals? How do you get these properties? And they said, well, we contact owners that want to buy it for a lot less of a cost, and then we sell it. So what I did is, because I like marketing, and so there's a nerdy side of me with it. I told them, I wonder how I can find some good wholesale deals. So what I did is, I decided to find out what are the best deals I can get at the most lazy effort possible. And so what I did is, that's why I became a member of over 300 realtor groups. And then what I did is, I don't know if you guys heard of a website called freelancer.com, but you can, I love my country. I really support, the hard workers here, but I do hire people out of India and Pakistan on Freelancer. I feel bad saying that, but I do. And what I do is, what I did is, I went on Google and I went to as many major, all the major cities around the United States that have at least 100,000 people. And I look up companies that offer wholesale deals. And what I did is I just sent them a simple email to each of these companies. Can I join your email list to see what wholesale deals you have? And I did this, and I basically I had a email account that I just get a crap load of spam emails from all these wholesale companies across the United States.
Yeah, they do that.
And then I do that, and then I basically had a freelancer on freelancer.com that scrapes every new post on Facebook that I get from my profile to know what wholesale deals came in to my that come that day. And I get about 150 leads a day that came in from wholesale deals. And then what I did is I figured that across the United States, you can find about maybe 3 to 5 really good gems a day across the United States on these wholesale deals. And so I know it's a lot of work. So what I did is, and I didn't have to do anything after I set it up. It took me about a week, working 12 hours a day for a week to set this up. And so after I set it all up, I got all these spam posts coming in from all these people hyping up great wholesale deals. The goal was I wanted to find deals that are giving me an extremely high ARV value, like really good ARV values, that someone is basically, it's almost, because it seems like some guys do offer really stinking good wholesale deals if some of them are getting pretty desperate, or maybe some of them just have a really good deal. And so that's the only way I'm able to find that 3 to 5 good deals. And then what I did just for fun, I thought, because I like selling leads sometimes, I sold the leads to different realtors. But the hard part is, those 3 to 5 deals come all over the United States, scattered. So I can't really focus on one guy to just buy them in other states. I got to hunt down now somebody in that state to find those deals and buy it off of me, that lead. And then people say, I only want to buy it for like $50 or $20. So I was making about maybe $150 an average a day. And that's maybe cool. I make an extra $150 a day, but I got to waste the time hunting down the buyer to buy the stinking lead just to get that wholesale deal. And I decided this is just not worth my time. But if I had the money, probably I would just buy those deals and try and flip it. But the hard part is I'm flipping a deal across the United States that I'm not even going to touch or look at in person. So it was really, I just thought this was really cool to share with you guys, because it was there's amazing way to network with investors and with wholesalers. And that's what I've done, is I got my foot in the door by doing that, by subscribing to all these people and interacting with different outfits. And there are deals out there. There's tons of them. And then also there's a great market for the cargo containers. But the biggest thing that I've done to really grow my company is networking. And it just doesn't happen overnight. But what I do is my next plan of attack I like to do is I just want to make sure this works in Montello and another place we're going to be marketing our containers to. And once this works out, I'm not going to be selling these just around Salt Lake because there's not really, just my point of view. I want to be able to get a desperate hot buyer that wants to buy a completely decked out off-grid container in the city of Salt Lake, because I know there's going to be some people who just want to see a rare opportunity to find something like this that is the only one in this state. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to do the next land deal in another state, like around Denver. The next land deal will be in Las Vegas.
The next one will be in Fort Lauderdale, right?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is we want to make it as a very rare opportunity of a deal where you're not going to see like listings of a bunch of houses. And then people are going to go, oh, man, what house do I want? But now they're going to go, wow, this is a prepper unit that nobody else is selling on Zillow or something like that. This is the once in a lifetime opportunity to buy this. And then it's close to a major city. And that's what the goal is. We want to sell it to someone who wants to prep, that wants to get to their bunkhouse close to that major city. And what I'm trying to do is I want a system where we're going to flip. That's why I'm going back to Bill's concept. We pay for speed. Is that once it's built in my warehouse, I want a 2 to 3 day turnaround where it's placed on the land, it's landscaped, and it's ready to go so we can put on the market. Because what I want to do is the second we purchase the land, day one, we excavate, and day two, the container is on, and that same day we can start planting the water tank and get everything completely set up. And the last day is just do all the stupid little maybe nitty-gritty things just to make sure everything looks pretty to list it on the market. And then we move on to the next deal. And that's basically what I'm going back to. I know this is a lot of explanation, but the thing is, yeah, you just got to find the really cheap, good deals, but then just make sure you show it as a rare opportunity, something special that someone really wants. Kind of like what I've explained with every property or the Airbnbs. It's got to be something that is far unique than anybody else can really expect from a simple property. And then it doesn't have to be cargo containers. You know, if it's a property you want to flip, just make it that concept. And that's something far unique that someone could expect. But just don't spend every dollar you have. But you got to just do something unique. And that's what Bill does. He does cookie cutter homes, but he makes sure it's a very unique finishes that he puts on it that not as many people do. He has basically a symbol or just a theme on each of his homes. Or if you ever step in a house that is for sale, you'll know it's Bill's house if you actually step into one of those homes.
Bill has it down, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Right. There's something called 5S, right? And in operations, we were all about that, right? Standardize. Everything is the same exact thing. We had 3 warehouses that when you walk into that building, you knew it was us because all of our packing stations were the same. All of our everything, all of our signs, all the processes that we do were all the same. So that's how we would keep growing and growing, is because everything was standardized. I love that he's putting that into real estate or into smaller a smaller operation, because I mean it's just like McDonald's, right? Just like Wendy's, just like Chick-fil-A. You walk in there, you know you're walking into a franchise. You know you're walking into a Chick-fil-A. You know you're walking into those places because it's all standardized.
Mm-hmm.
And the more and more and more that you repeat the process, the better and faster you get at it. So
yep.
And then this is kind of like the next question I wanted to lead into was, how long does it usually, like if I ordered one today, right? How long would it take for you to build the 40 footers and deliver it and set it all up?
For me, it takes me about, I build these all by myself, just to let you know. So everything you saw on the website, that's just only built by me.
Okay.
And so it takes me about 40 days to build the 40 footers, and the 20 footers take me about 3 weeks. And then, but I got a better process. I think I can make it go faster. But then setting up the land, I could pour a foundation like a stem wall. But thing is, if it's out of state, I make rules for my customers that you just need to hire a contractor on the other side to do it for you. And it's a lot more affordable, I bet. And also he's licensed in your state. But I'll help you figure out what you need to do for what type of pad and or foundation you need to do. But just make sure that you get it set up properly. And I'll have a driver go out there and he'll either slide it off the trailer and onto the pad, or we will have a crane set it on your foundation. Just depends on how it needs to be set up. So it really depends. But it's pretty quick turnaround in my opinion. But right now I'm about 2 months out. But after that, then I could build in that time period. What I would like to do is, I probably shouldn't be saying this. I really would like to just do strictly land deals for myself. But right now I'm still doing it for customers. And I'm still building these for other people. But if things keep going well the way it is for me, I like to just strictly only do land deals and just do it in each city. And then I'll be setting it up there. But that's my future goal. But right now I'm still building them for people.
Okay. And then this actually leads in beautifully to the next question. Do you think, do you feel that this is the future of residential and commercial real estate?
Yeah, the funny thing is, hope I'm not going to offend people, but we have a lot of millennials coming in. And the thing is, most customers I run into now are millennials. Like I got a guy out of Colorado I'm closing on. He is a single millennial guy that he makes really good money, but he just wants to be in a 40-foot container, and he's going to park his Tesla in a 20-foot container with solar on it. And so we're going to basically charge his Tesla, and he wants all the high-tech gadgets.
Awesome.
So that's all millennials want. They want the high-tech home, and they want something very unique, but something very small. And that's basically, and I believe that's one of the biggest markets we're running into, is they want stuff like that. And like, what's ridiculous in Utah, I don't know what it's like in Florida, but more often now they build these big townhomes and apartment complexes out in the country now. Like, far away from the city. And it makes you feel like you're out in the country, but you're not, it seems like now, because you're still in an apartment. And all these millennials are buying these so they can ride their shuttle back to the city. But they still rather live in a small space, and even though they're living out in the country area. Mm-hmm. And it's been a huge thing out here in Utah. They're doing these large developments where they're doing these very small townhomes or apartments, and they're adding shuttles or railways coming from those to go to the city, because people don't like to use their cars as much or stuff like that. And it seems like it's getting bigger and bigger. And probably about at least 50% of my customers are these type of people. It's what they are. Get you an idea.
No, and I wouldn't I mean I wouldn't see anyone else buying except for millennials, to be honest with you. It's trendy, right? Not only is trendy, it's something new. It's something, like you said, that it's tiny, but it has everything that you need. It's actually less expensive, right? So if I were to go and purchase a property here in Fort Lauderdale, say in like a decent area, I mean, it's over $300,000, you know. So it's like, okay, maybe I can go and buy a piece of property, get a 40-footer, and there you go. Like it only takes 30 days, 40 days to build, right? To have it installed, it can take a few months, rather than having a brand new construction house with CBS, brick and everything. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I think you're on the right path. It seems like you think you thought of something, but I feel like you're gonna just be improving, because just from talking to you today, that's all you've been doing, right? It's just improving your process. So I think you're onto something.
Thank you.
Question. I'm a real estate agent, and I sell land here in Florida, in addition to residential and commercial. And I'd like to know, what are the features that you need in a land And how much does it cost to build a house?
Just to build the container home on the land?
Yes.
Yeah, so I get probably about 25% of those who I sell to, they don't even want the solar and they don't even want the off-grid capabilities. They just want to attach it to land. And every city is different because if you're going to put a well in there, it's going to be anywhere from like 4,000, I think it's $5,000 to $12,000 at least to put a well in. Your utilities, even if you want to put a septic tank in, it really varies on cost and your location.
Mm-hmm.
Septic tanks could be about $5,000 to $7,000 on average. Other ones are even, if you're going to hook up to the sewer and to the city electric, it depends on the distance you are. But on the averages I've paid for, I have customers pay on the cabins or stuff like that we've done, or even on other properties. Electrical could be anywhere from like $5,000 or $6,000 on electrical. Or even the sewage, that can be really hefty. For some reason, sewage is more than electrical sometimes, depends on the distance. But I had one guy pay up to $8,000 put in his sewage, or another guy only paid a couple $1,000. And it's a really broad question because when you hook up the utilities, it really varies. But the averages, I say, electrical and plumbing to hook up to the city is about 10 grand is what I say for doing both.
Yes, but my question really is like, I mean, what are the features of the land?
It's
What would be like the
8:30.
ideal land to
Oh, the
get
features of land?
Yes. You said 50,000 square feet
The
Yeah.
size, the size or
the size of the container or the land?
the land.
Oh, you're talking about like how big of a land you could put these on, or how small?
Yes, how small?
It really depends. Like even in like the, I think as long the biggest thing is the zoning of the land. Hopefully I got this correct. For any city, any residential lot, as long as it's zoned for residential, you could put it there, and as long as it meets the right setbacks. That's the two main things. If it's residential and it meets the setbacks, actually, I guess the third one is the square footage. If your cargo container is 320 square feet, and I guess if they allow it, and what if the land is only a quarter of an acre, if it's really small, or even less than a quarter of an acre, as long as it's meeting the setbacks on the property, like 5 feet away from the border of the property or something like that, as long as it's meeting those requirements, you're okay. And it's just, you got to focus on those three things: the square footage of the unit, what's the minimum square footage, and then the setbacks, and then just make sure it's basically zoned to be residential or zoned for what you need to do. I hope that answered your question.
Yes,
All right,
because
Rick.
we have 14 lots.
See you later, buddy. Sorry. Rick, see you later, man.
Community, and also we have these other lots, one residential which is very large in North Florida. So I'm thinking about maybe doing something like that.
Okay. Yeah, you just got to check with the city. That's the biggest thing. And just make sure they're cool with it in the minimum square footage, and then you can go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'm sorry. That was Rick who just left. He said thank you very much for your time. Because he's actually, I believe his lot is zoned for more than one or a few units. So I think he might actually look into this. But great. So yeah, we're definitely running a little bit over time, but that's okay. I think I actually said that this subject has been very hot, and I'm sorry if you have something to do. My apologies. Yeah, it looks like you've literally answered every single question. There is one other question I have, and obviously, how could someone reach out to you if they wanted any additional information?
Just go on my website. It's apocaoutpost.com, the APOCA outpost.com. And that's the best way to get a hold of me. And I always just tell people over and over, just fill out the quote form. And if you need financing on on that quote form, and you put in your finance information, and then I got lenders I work with, where I have 3 different lenders. One, basically, as long as you have a minimum 650 credit score and you can show 2 years of tax returns, you can actually finance these things pretty easily without collateral.
Yeah. No,
The other one, the other lender, he basically could take anybody that breathes, but you need to have skin in the game and put at least 25% down. And then the other one is private investors I have that are willing to lend on it, but you got to put at least 50% down, but they basically can get you a quote instantly as long as they look at your income and whatever. But so I have networks I can work with
good.
to get
Awesome.
financing.
That's awesome. That's great information. I think everyone would is very eager to hear that because again, it's something that a lot of people have been wanting to ask. You have a question, Caroline?
Yes, I'd like to know if they can run easily on regular electricity and not on solar panel.
Yeah, they can run regular electricity. If you just don't want solar panels, I don't have to put them on there. And then all you got to do is just either I can put a breaker box on the outside that connects directly to the city line, or I can do an RV hookup where all you got to do is just plug in directly from a stub that you have on the side of the property that has RV hookup. It really depends on how you want to hook it up, but I can be pretty flexible on how you hook it up.
Very interesting.
Okay.
Question.
Yeah, because I know people who have containers in the Caribbean, and some of my friends, they are not millennials, but they are very trendy. They don't need to be millennials to be trendy, and they are looking into this type of housing. So I'll let you know if I can do something in North Florida.
Okay, no problem.
Perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and actually go ahead and just share my screen real quick. Give me 1 second. If anyone wants to go, they could always go on to SoFlo Real Estate Investors.com. This is our website. It'll have all of our past roundtable sessions or webinars. It'll also have an update of when our next roundtable sessions are and the dates, and obviously pictures and more information on the bottom. So you can feel free to go ahead and check out our website. You can also go to our YouTube channel. It's SoFlo Real Estate Investors, and it'll also have all of our videos that we've previously recorded on there as well. So you can always check that out. But again, I appreciate everyone's time. Mike, you've been honestly like an inspiration to me, to be honest with you. One day I'd love to meet you in person, go to Utah, because I actually have not been there. But just your story, everything about you and what you've done so far has inspired me. I just feel like right now going and working and expanding my restoration business to bigger and better things right now. So I appreciate your time. And thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, I'm gonna end recording.